Right now, there's a good chance a wolf is asleep somewhere in your home. You don't call it a wolf, of course. You call it Max or Bella or Good Boy. You feed it from a bowl with its name on it. It sleeps on your bed, and it loses its mind with joy every single time you walk through the door, as if you've just returned from war, when really you only went to get the mail. But make no mistake, that soft, snoring, belly-up creature dreaming at your feet is a wolf, or at least it was. And 30,000 years ago, if you had met its ancestor out in the wild, it would not have wagged its tail. It would have watched you from the tree line and waited. And if you were weak enough, it would have killed you. So what happened? How did the single most dangerous predator our ancestors ever faced become the animal that now wears little sweaters and sleeps in our beds? When did the wolf at the edge of the firelight become man's best friend? The answer is one of the oldest, strangest, and most beautiful stories in all of human history. Because the dog wasn't just the first animal we ever tamed. It was the first animal, period. Long before cows, before sheep, before chickens, before we grew a single stalk of wheat, there was the dog. Dogs were with us while we were still hunter-gatherers, still wandering, still living in a world made entirely of wilderness. Which means our friendship with them is older than farming, older than cities, older than writing, older than almost everything we think of as being human. Now, when you hear the word domestication, you probably picture something deliberate. A clever caveman catching a wolf pup, raising it, taming it, teaching it to sit. And for a long time, that's exactly the story people told. But the truth is almost certainly the opposite. We probably didn't domesticate wolves at all. They domesticated themselves. Here's how it likely happened. Picture a human camp, maybe 30,000 years ago. There's a fire, there's food, and crucially, there's a garbage pile. Scraps of meat, cracked bones, the leftovers of the hunt. Now, most wolves would never go near that camp. Humans were dangerous, unpredictable, terrifying. A normal wolf kept its distance. But wolves, like all animals, come in a range of temperaments. Some are bold, some are shy, and a small handful are just a little bit less afraid than the rest. And those slightly braver, slightly friendlier wolves could do something the others couldn't. They could creep a little closer to the camp, close enough to grab the scraps, close enough to eat. That is a massive advantage. Free food, no hunting required. So the friendly wolves ate better, survived better, and had more pups. And their pups inherited that same friendliness. Generation after generation, the wolves hanging around humans got tamer, and tamer, and tamer. Not because we chose them, but because being unafraid of us had suddenly become the single best survival strategy on Earth. Scientists actually have a name for this. They call it survival of the friendliest. The wolves that became dogs didn't win by being the strongest or the fastest. They won by being the nicest. And exactly when and where this began is still fiercely debated. Genetic studies suggest dogs split from wolves somewhere between 20 and 40,000 years ago. And every single dog alive today, from the tiniest Chihuahua to the largest Great Dane, descends from a population of ancient wolves that no longer even exists. That original wolf is gone. But it never really left. It just changed shape and moved indoors. And here's the wild part. We know this transformation can happen shockingly fast because in the 20th century, someone did it on purpose. In 1959, a Soviet scientist named Dmitry Belyaev began an experiment with silver foxes in Siberia. His rule was simple. In every generation, he would only breed the foxes that were the very least afraid of humans. That's it. Just tameness. Nothing else. And what happened next stunned everyone. Within just a handful of generations, the foxes didn't only get friendlier, they started to change physically. Their ears got floppy, their tails got curly, their coats broke out in white patches. Even their skulls changed shape. They started to look like dogs. Belyaev had stumbled onto something incredible. That friendliness and cuteness are secretly wired together. That when you select an animal purely for being tame, a whole package of soft, puppy-like traits comes along for the ride. It's called domestication syndrome, and it means the change from fearsome wolf to floppy-eared friend might have taken not thousands of years, but only a few dozen generations. So by the time we get real, physical evidence of dogs, the bond is already astonishing. In 1914, in a place called Oberkassel in Germany, workers uncovered a grave around 14,000 years old. Inside were the bones of two humans, a man and a woman, and buried right there beside them was a dog. But this wasn't just any dog. When scientists studied its teeth, they found something heartbreaking. This dog had been desperately sick as a puppy. It had suffered a severe case of what was almost certainly canine distemper, a brutal, usually fatal disease. A puppy that sick could not possibly have survived on its own. It couldn't hunt. It couldn't keep up with the group. For weeks it would have needed to be kept warm, given water, hand-fed, and cared for around the clock by humans. And they did. They nursed a sick puppy back to health, an animal that gave them nothing in return during those weeks, purely because they cared whether it lived. And when that dog finally died, years later, they buried it with their own dead. Not as a tool, not as livestock, but as family. 14,000 years ago, someone loved a dog in the exact same way you love yours. But the strangest, most beautiful part of this whole story isn't just that we changed them. It's that they changed us too, and that we changed each other in ways written into our bodies to this very day. Take something as simple as pointing. If you point at an object, your dog will look where you're pointing. That seems obvious, but it is genuinely extraordinary because chimpanzees, our closest relatives, are terrible at it. Point at something for a chimp, and it just stares at your finger. But dogs understand pointing instantly, often better than a human toddler does. Nobody taught them this. They evolved to read us, our hands, our faces, our moods, because for 30,000 years, understanding humans was the difference between life and death. And it runs deeper. When a dog is faced with a problem it simply cannot solve, it does something no wolf ever does. It stops, and it looks back at you. It asks for help. A wolf raised in the exact same home from birth will never do this. It will just keep struggling alone. But a dog turns to a human because somewhere along the way we became part of how they make sense of the world. And then there's the look, that soft, melting, slightly heartbroken expression your dog gives you, the puppy dog eyes. It turns out that is not your imagination, and it is not an accident. In 2019, scientists discovered that dogs have evolved a tiny muscle above their eyes that lets them raise their inner eyebrows, making their eyes look bigger, sadder, more baby-like. Wolves do not have this muscle. Dogs grew it. They evolved an entire facial expression on purpose to tug at the human heart, because the dogs that could make us melt got fed, got protected, and got loved. Those sad little eyes are a message, written across tens of thousands of years, aimed directly at the softest part of the human brain, and it works in both directions. When you look into your dog's eyes and it looks back into yours, both of your brains release a hormone called oxytocin. It is the exact same chemical that floods a mother's brain when she holds her newborn child. The very same bonding signal, which means on a chemical level, your dog isn't just your pet. Your body treats it quite literally like your baby, and your dog's body treats you exactly the same way. So let's go back one last time to that wolf asleep on your couch, because now you know what you're really looking at. You're not looking at a pet you picked out. You're looking at the end of a 30,000-year experiment that no one ever designed. A story that began with a single, slightly braver wolf, creeping toward one flickering fire, deciding that these strange, two-legged creatures might just be worth the risk. We didn't tame the wolf. Not really. What actually happened is stranger and far kinder than that. Two completely different species, one that hunted in packs and one that hunted in packs, looked across the darkness at each other and slowly, over thousands of years, chose to become one pack. We fed them. They warned us. We kept them warm. They kept us safe. And somewhere in that long, slow dance around the fire, they stopped being wolves, and we stopped being quite so alone. So the next time your dog rests its head on your knee and looks up at you with those ridiculous, impossible eyes, remember what you're actually seeing, not just an animal, but the oldest friendship in the entire history of our species. 30,000 years old and still curled up right there at your feet.